After winning the regional competition, Mira returned to her small town with a mixture of pride and calm. She did not shout about her victory or seek attention. Instead, she walked quietly through the marketplace carrying her trophy in a simple box. People immediately recognized her, and whispers of admiration followed her wherever she went. At the bakery, her coworkers and neighbors greeted her with excitement. Some clapped, some shook her hand, and others simply stared in awe. Customers who had once thought of her as quiet and ordinary now looked at her with respect and curiosity. Many asked her to tell the story of how she had won, and Mira recounted it with modesty, describing each round and each challenge. She spoke gently, her words carrying the same calm as her actions. Rosa stayed by her side, beaming with pride. "Mira, you have changed the way everyone sees you. No one will ever underestimate you again," she said. Mira smiled softly. "I have not changed," she replied. "I just proved to myself that focus and patience are stronger than doubt and noise." The news of her win spread quickly beyond the town. Local newspapers wanted interviews, and people from nearby towns came to congratulate her. Mira politely accepted their words but remained grounded. She enjoyed her quiet life at the bakery and did not want fame to take over her days. The instructor, who had trained her since her first visit to the shooting range, came to the bakery one afternoon. "Mira," he said, "you have shown incredible skill and control. There are even bigger competitions if you want to continue. You could go national or even international. You have potential that very few have." Mira thought about it. Competing on a bigger stage seemed intimidating, but she also remembered the joy of discovering her own strength. "I will think about it," she said. "For now, I want to enjoy my life here and keep practicing quietly." Rosa grinned. "You don't have to decide anything now. But know this. You have inspired many people not just by winning but by how you carried yourself, calm, humble, and determined." Days passed, and Mira continued her practice at the range. She learned new techniques and tried different challenges. Each time she picked up the gun, she reminded herself that it was not about proving others wrong. It was about challenging herself, testing her limits, and discovering what she could do when she believed in herself. Some of the men who had mocked her years ago began attending the range more often. They watched her quietly, and sometimes tried to mimic her calm style, though few could match her focus. Mira never said anything to them. Her silence and skill spoke louder than any words ever could. One day, a group of young girls came to the range looking nervous and unsure. They had heard about Mira and wanted to try shooting themselves. Mira noticed them and smiled. She gently guided them, showing them how to hold the gun, how to focus, and how to breathe calmly. The girls listened carefully, and by the end of the day, they were hitting the targets more accurately than they had imagined. Rosa watched and whispered, "You are not just teaching them to shoot. You are teaching them courage and patience." Mira nodded. "It is not about the gun," she said softly. "It is about believing in yourself and staying calm when everyone doubts you." By the evening, the sun was setting, casting golden light over the town. Mira closed the bakery, waved to Rosa, and walked home slowly. She felt content. She had discovered her strength, faced challenges she never thought she could, and inspired others without changing who she was. The town had learned an important lesson. Strength is not always loud, and courage is not always visible. Sometimes it comes quietly through patience, practice, and the steady belief that you can achieve more than anyone expects. Mira looked at the sky, her heart calm and proud. She knew her journey was not over, but she also knew that no matter what challenges came next, she would face them with the same steady focus that had carried her from a simple woman at the bakery to a champion respected by everyone. And in that quiet strength, Mira found joy that no victory or applause could ever surpass. The months after Mira's regional victory passed with quiet happiness. She continued to work at the bakery during the day and practice at the shooting range in the evenings. Though her skills grew stronger with every session, she remained the same calm, humble woman who had once been underestimated by everyone in town. The people of the town had grown to admire her. Children whispered her name with excitement, neighbors smiled whenever she walked by, and the bakery became even more popular. Everyone wanted to meet the woman who had shown that quiet strength could achieve extraordinary things. Yet Mira never let the attention change her. She continued to greet each customer with a warm smile and gentle words. Rosa was her constant companion, cheering her on during practice sessions and supporting her through every challenge. "Mira, you are amazing," Rosa said one evening as they walked home from the range. "You have inspired so many people and you do it without even trying. You are proof that patience, focus, and belief in yourself are stronger than anyone's doubt." Mira smiled softly. "It is not about proving others wrong. It is about knowing what I can do when I believe in myself. That is what matters most." The instructor, who had trained her since her first visit to the range, often reminded her of her potential. "You have the ability to go even further," he said. "National competitions, international tournaments, there is no limit if you want to pursue it. But what you have already achieved is remarkable. Few people ever reach this level, and you have done it with calm determination." Mira listened and thought about it. The idea of competing on bigger stages was tempting, but she also valued her quiet life. She enjoyed the simple routine of her bakery, the quiet walks home, and the satisfaction of seeing progress through practice. She realized that success was not about fame or recognition. It was about personal growth and inner strength. One afternoon, a young boy came into the bakery holding a small toy gun. "Are you the woman who hit 10 bullseyes at the range?" he asked eagerly. Mira knelt down and smiled at him. "Yes, that is me. But the important thing is not how many bullseyes I hit. It is how I stayed calm, focused, and never gave up." The boy's eyes widened. "Can you teach me to do that too?" Mira nodded. "Of course. It takes practice and patience, and you must always believe that you can do it even when it feels hard." Soon, more children and teenagers started coming to the range, inspired by Mira's story. She taught them gently, helping them develop confidence, focus, and calmness. She showed them that strength was not about being loud or fast, but about staying steady, practicing consistently, and believing in yourself. Her influence grew quietly but steadily. The town realized that she had not just won competitions. She had also inspired others to discover their own courage and potential. People who had once mocked her now watched with admiration, learning that true strength is not always obvious, but it can shine brightly when tested. One evening, as the sun set over the town, Mira walked home from the range carrying her practice bag. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. She paused for a moment, looking at the peaceful streets, the quiet shops, and the familiar faces of neighbors greeting her. She thought about how far she had come, from a simple woman quietly working at a bakery to a champion admired by many. She thought about every challenge she had faced, every doubt she had overcome, and every lesson she had learned about patience, focus, and belief in herself. Mira smiled, her heart calm and full. She had discovered a strength she never knew she had, inspired others without seeking recognition, and stayed true to herself throughout the journey. She understood now that her greatest victory was not the trophies, applause, or fame. Her greatest victory was the quiet confidence she carried within her, the knowledge that she could achieve anything she set her mind to, and the ability to inspire others through her example. As she entered her home, Rosa greeted her with a cheerful smile. "You did it again today, Mira. You showed everyone how much strength a quiet heart can have." Mira returned the smile and shook her head gently. "It is not about showing others. It is about knowing myself and never giving up. That is enough." And so, Mira's life continued, quiet, calm, and steady, yet filled with respect, admiration, and the knowledge that true strength always shines, even in the most unexpected ways. The simple woman from the bakery had become a symbol of patience, courage, and quiet determination. She had faced doubt, fear, and mockery, yet she rose above them all with calm focus and belief in herself. And the town, and all those who had witnessed her journey, would remember her story for years to come. The sun was high in the sky, and the streets of the small town were quiet. A soldier named Amir walked slowly, his steps heavy as if the weight of his thoughts pressed down on him. His uniform was not new. It was old and faded, and the color had lost its shine. His boots had scratches from many days of walking. In his hand, Amir carried a small wooden box, and he held it tightly as though it carried more than wood and metal. Inside the box was a medal. It was not just any medal. Years ago, Amir had been given it for his service and bravery when he was in the army. He had carried it with him through every move, every change, and every hardship. The medal reminded him of long nights, tough days, and the people he once stood beside. It reminded him of the honor he had earned and the pride his late father had felt when Amir showed it to him. But now life had turned in a way he never imagined. After leaving the army, Amir found it hard to adjust to a normal life. Jobs were not easy to find. Sometimes he worked for a few days, sometimes for weeks, but never enough to give him stability. His mother had grown old and weak. She needed medicine, and the bills had grown heavier with every passing month. Amir tried to manage, but there came a point when he had nothing left to sell and no savings to use. The only thing of value he had was the medal in the box. He had thought about it for many nights. His heart ached at the idea of parting with it. The medal was a piece of his soul, a sign of what he had once been. But when he saw his mother struggling to breathe one evening, when he heard the doctor say she needed proper treatment, Amir knew he had to make a choice. Pride was not more important than her life. With that thought, he placed the medal in the wooden box, closed it carefully, and decided to take it to the pawn shop. The pawn shop was at the corner of the old market street. Its sign was faded and the windows were dusty. It was not a place where people came with joy. People only came here when they needed money fast, and Amir was now one of them. As he reached the shop, he paused for a moment at the door. He could hear his own heart beating fast. Selling the medal felt like giving away a piece of himself, but he told himself again that this was for his mother. He took a deep breath and pushed open the door. The small bell above the door rang softly. Inside, the air smelled of old wood, metal, and time. Shelves were filled with clocks, watches, tools, and little items from many homes. Behind the counter stood the shop owner, a middle-aged man named Raza. He had a sharp face but kind eyes. He looked up as Amir entered. To him, Amir seemed like any other customer, but something in the way Amir carried himself caught his attention. Amir walked up to the counter and slowly placed the wooden box on it. He did not speak right away. Raza glanced at the box and then at Amir, waiting for him to open it. With careful hands, Amir lifted the lid. The metal shone under the dim shop light. Its surface carried small marks, but the shine of honor still lived in it. Raza leaned closer, his eyes narrowing with interest. He had seen many things come through his shop: gold rings, broken radios, family heirlooms, but this was different. He asked quietly, "What is this?" Amir looked at the metal and then at the shop owner. His voice was calm but carried a tired weight. "It is mine," he said. "I received it for my service. I need to sell it." The words hung in the air. Raza did not move right away. He looked at Amir again, trying to read the story written on his face. He saw more than a man in need. He saw someone who had given years of his life for others, someone now standing in front of him with pain in his eyes. The shop felt suddenly silent, as if even the ticking clocks on the shelf had paused to listen. Amir lowered his gaze. He had not wanted to explain his struggles, but he felt he must. He told Raza about his mother, her sickness, the bills, and the empty pockets. He said he had no other choice left. His voice did not rise and he did not beg. He only spoke with honesty, his words as plain as his life had become. Raza listened quietly, his hands resting on the counter. He looked at the medal once more and then at Amir. Something about this meeting was different from all the others he had seen in his shop. This was not a simple trade of goods for money. This was a trade of sacrifice, memory, and honor. And in that moment, Raza knew that whatever happened next, the medal on his counter was not just another item to be bought or sold. Raza kept his eyes fixed on the medal, the light catching its golden surface as if it wanted to speak of the past. He had been running the pawn shop for many years, and people often came with rings from broken marriages, watches that no longer ticked, or tools they no longer needed. But this was different. A medal of honor was not an object to trade. It was a piece of history, a symbol of courage, and it belonged to a story greater than money. Amir stood still, his shoulders tense, as if he was ready for disappointment. He had already told himself that Raza might not understand. Maybe the shop owner would treat the medal like any other object, weigh it and offer a small amount. Amir's heart was ready for that kind of exchange, though deep inside, he wished someone could see the truth behind it. Breaking the silence, Raza asked in a quiet tone, "How much do you expect for this medal?" Amir hesitated. He had thought about this number many times before walking into the shop. He did not want to ask too much because he feared rejection. He also knew the medal had no real market price because its true worth was not in metal, but in memory. Slowly, with his head lowered, he whispered an amount so small that it surprised Raza. Raza frowned slightly. "Only this much?" he asked. Do you know what you are offering? Amir looked up, his tired eyes meeting Raza's. I know what it is, he said softly. I also know what I need. My mother's medicine costs money. I have no other way. Hearing this, Raza felt a heavy ache in his chest. He thought of his own father, who had once told him stories of standing guard in the cold nights of the border. His father had not received medals, but he carried scars that told their own tale. Raza remembered those nights when his father coughed in his old age, and how proud he had been to speak of his service. Looking at Amir now, he felt as if his father's spirit stood in the room, reminding him of the value of sacrifice. Raza lifted the medal gently and held it in his hand. He turned it over, studying its marks. It was not just a piece of shiny metal. It had scratches, each one a reminder of where Amir had been. He could almost imagine the sound of boots on rocky ground, the calls of soldiers and the silence after a storm. Tell me, Raza said carefully, how did you earn this medal? Amir was silent for a moment. He did not usually speak of his past, but something about Raza's voice felt different. It was not the voice of a man trying to make a deal. It was the voice of someone who wanted to listen. Amir sighed and then began. He spoke of a mission that had gone wrong, of a night when he and his unit had been surrounded. He remembered how fear filled the air, but he also remembered the faces of his fellow soldiers who trusted him. He told Raza how he had stepped forward, how he had led them through the danger and how they had managed to escape with their lives. The medal was given to him afterward, but for Amir it was not about glory. It was about the people who made it back safely. As Amir finished his story, the shop grew silent again. Even the old clock on the wall seemed to hold its tick. Raza placed the medal back in the box with respect, as if he was returning a treasure to its rightful place. This, Raza said slowly, is not something I should put on a shelf. This is not something I should price with a number. Amir's heart sank. He thought the shop owner was about to reject the medal completely. I understand, Amir said quickly. But please, I need the money. I would not be here if there was any other way. Raza looked at Amir with deep thought in his eyes. The man standing before him was not a beggar. He was not careless or greedy. He was a son trying to save his mother, willing to let go of his honor for her life. Raza knew that this moment was about more than business. It was about humanity. He closed the box and pushed it gently back toward Amir. Some things, Raza said firmly, cannot be sold. Amir froze. He stared at the box, then at Raza. His lips parted as if to speak, but no words came out. He had expected bargaining, maybe even insult, but not this. His chest tightened, and for the first time in many months, his eyes began to shine with unshed tears. The pawn shop, filled with old items and forgotten stories, had never witnessed a silence so heavy yet so full of meaning. Amir stood in silence, his eyes fixed on the small wooden box that had been pushed back toward him. His hands trembled slightly, unsure if he should take it or leave it there. The words of Raza echoed in his ears. Some things cannot be sold. They sounded firm but also carried kindness. Amir did not know how to respond. He had walked into the shop ready to give away a piece of himself, and now the shop owner refused to let him. Raza's eyes softened as he looked at the soldier before him. He saw the lines of struggle on Amir's face, the tiredness in his posture, and the weight of duty in his eyes. He knew this man was not asking for pity. He was asking for help, quietly and with dignity. Raza's heart told him that this moment demanded more than coins or bargaining. Brother, Raza said gently, this medal belongs to you. It is a symbol of what you gave, and what others received because of your courage. It cannot sit in my shop window between broken radios and old watches. Amir lowered his gaze. His throat felt tight. But I have no choice, he whispered. My mother is ill. Medicine costs more than I can earn. I would rather keep the medal, but what good is pride if she suffers without care? The word struck Raza deeply. He thought again of his father, who had once told him that a true man sometimes sacrifices even what he values most for those he loves. Raza felt the truth of Amir's struggle, and he also felt a pull in his own heart to do what was right. Raza opened the box once more and lifted the medal into his hands. He studied it carefully, turning it slowly under the shop's dim light. He imagined the weight it carried, not just in metal but in meaning. The scratches told a silent story, one that no coin could measure. After a long moment, he set the medal down again, and with steady hands he pushed the box back toward Amir once more. "You must keep this," Raza said firmly. "But your mother must also receive her medicine." Amir frowned, confused. He opened his mouth to ask what Raza meant, but before he could speak, Raza bent down and pulled open a drawer under the counter. Inside, neatly tied in small bundles, were notes of money that Raza had saved. Some belonged to the shop's earnings, some to his personal savings, but at that moment he did not care about the difference. He pulled out a thick bundle and placed it on the counter. Amir's eyes widened. He stepped back as though the sight of the money had burned him. "I cannot take this," he said quickly. "I came to sell something, not to beg." Raza shook his head. "This is not charity," he replied. "This is respect. This is thanks. You stood in places most men fear to stand. You carried duties that others avoided. Because of men like you, we sleep in peace. Do not think of this as begging. Think of it as a gift of honor." Amir's chest grew heavy. No one had spoken to him like this since he left the army. He had felt forgotten by the world, like his years of service no longer mattered. Yet here, in a dusty little pawn shop, a stranger reminded him of his worth. Still, his pride resisted. He whispered again, "I cannot take it. It is too much." Raza leaned forward, his voice steady. "Then tell me, is your mother's life worth less than this bundle of notes? If you refuse, you are not protecting your pride. You are harming her. Take it, not for yourself, but for her." The words struck Amir like a blow of truth. His throat tightened and he lowered his head, unable to speak. Slowly, with trembling hands, he reached out and touched the bundle of notes. He lifted it carefully as though it were heavier than it looked. Tears filled his eyes, but he tried to hide them. He turned his face slightly, wiping at the corner of his eye with his sleeve. In his chest, emotions swirled. Gratitude, relief, and a pain so deep it almost hurt to breathe. Raza smiled gently, as though he understood the storm inside Amir. "Go home," he said quietly. "Buy the medicine. Care for your mother, and keep your medal safe, for it tells a story that must never be lost." Amir nodded slowly, still holding both the medal and the money close to him. For the first time in a long while, he felt that someone had seen him, not just as a man in need, but as a man who had given something of himself to the world. As he walked out of the pawn shop, the little bell above the door rang softly again, but this time the sound felt different, almost like a song of hope. Amir stepped into the sunlight, clutching the box and the bundle of notes, his heart heavy yet lifted at the same time. The street outside the pawn shop was busy, yet Amir felt as if he was walking in another world. The weight in his hand was more than just a bundle of notes and a wooden box. It was the weight of kindness, respect, and unexpected hope. He had walked into the shop prepared to lose something precious, but he walked out with both the medal and the means to help his mother. The sun shone brightly, and for a moment Amir lifted his face toward it, letting the warmth settle on his skin. It had been a long time since he had felt light in his heart. He moved through the market street, passing vendors who called out their prices for fruits, clothes, and small household goods. The smells of fresh bread and roasted corn filled the air. Life around him went on as usual, yet inside Amir something had changed. He thought about the shop owner, Raza, and how he had refused to take the medal. That single act had touched Amir more deeply than he could explain. As he neared his home, a small house at the edge of the neighborhood, Amir slowed his steps. His mother, Mariam, was waiting for him. She had been sick for many weeks, her strength fading with every day. The doctor had told Amir that proper medicine and care could help her recover, but Amir's empty pockets had left him helpless. Now with the money he carried, he could finally do something. When he stepped into the house, the familiar smell of herbs and tea greeted him. Mariam sat on a wooden chair near the window, her shawl wrapped tightly around her shoulders. Her face lit up as soon as she saw him, though her body looked weak. "You are home, Amir," she said softly. "Did you find what you needed?" Amir's throat tightened. He placed the box and the bundle of notes on the table. His mother's eyes widened at the sight. "Where did this come from?" she asked with surprise. Amir sat beside her and took her hand gently. "I went to the pawn shop," he explained. "I was ready to sell the medal, but the shop owner refused. Instead, he gave me this money and told me to keep the medal. He said it was a part of me and should never be sold." Mariam touched the wooden box, her fingers tracing the edges slowly. She remembered the day Amir had come home with the medal, his chest full of pride and his father's eyes wet with joy. Now seeing it safe again filled her with both relief and sadness. "My son," she whispered. "You were willing to give up your honor for me." Amir shook his head quickly. "It is not honor that matters now. It is your health. The medal means much to me, but you mean far more." Tears welled in Miriam's eyes as she squeezed his hand. "And still, God sent someone kind to remind you that honor and family can both be kept." "That man must have a good heart," Amir nodded. "Yes, he saw me not as a beggar but as a soldier and as a son. He gave me respect when I thought the world had forgotten me." The two sat quietly for a moment, their hearts connected by unspoken gratitude. Then Amir stood and carefully counted out some notes. "I will go to the pharmacy now," he said. "You will begin your medicine tonight." Miriam smiled faintly, her eyes full of trust. "Go, my son, and may you always find such kindness in your path." Amir left the house once more, the money secure in his pocket. The pharmacy was not far, and as he walked, he thought of the many ways his life had turned in the past months. He had gone from soldier to struggler, from hope to despair, and now in one day from despair to a fragile kind of peace. He promised himself that he would remember this lesson for as long as he lived. At the pharmacy, he bought the medicine carefully, making sure to take everything the doctor had listed. The pharmacist gave him a respectful nod, perhaps noticing the worn soldier's uniform Amir still wore. Carrying the small packets of medicine, Amir walked home with a steady step, a plan growing inside his mind. He knew he could not rely only on kindness forever. Raza's help had saved him now, but Amir needed to build a life again. He needed to work, to earn, to stand strong for his mother's sake. The medal reminded him of who he once was. The money reminded him of what kindness could do. Together, they gave him the strength to believe in tomorrow. When he returned home, Miriam welcomed him with a warm smile. He placed the medicine on the table, and for the first time in many weeks, Amir felt like he had done something right. His mother's health would improve, and his spirit had been lifted by a stranger's respect. That night, as Amir sat beside his mother, he kept the wooden box close to him. The metal inside gleamed faintly in the lamplight like a quiet guardian of his past and his future. He whispered a promise to himself. He would never again try to sell it. It was not just metal. It was his story, his sacrifice, and now a symbol of kindness that had given him new hope. The next morning began with a quiet calm inside Amir's small home. Sunlight slipped through the thin curtains, spreading a gentle glow across the room. Amir sat on the floor near his mother's bed, carefully helping her take the medicine he had bought the night before. Miriam smiled weakly as she swallowed the tablets with a sip of warm water. It had been a long time since she had such proper medicine, and Amir felt a wave of relief seeing her start the treatment. "You will get better now," Amir said with determination. "I will make sure of it." Miriam placed her hand over his and whispered, "My son, you already gave me strength. Seeing you fight for me is medicine for my heart." Her words filled Amir with warmth, but they also reminded him of his responsibility. He could not let this moment of help from Raza be the end. He had to rebuild his life, not only for his mother but for his own dignity. After making sure his mother was comfortable, Amir stepped outside into the fresh morning air. The neighborhood was waking up. Children played in the narrow street, shopkeepers lifted shutters, and women carried baskets of vegetables. The sounds of life surrounded him, and Amir felt a new sense of purpose rising within. He decided to go back to the market to look for work. His body was strong and his mind was disciplined from years in the army. He knew he could handle hard labor if it meant earning honestly. With this thought, he walked toward the busy area of town. At a construction site, he saw a group of men lifting bricks and mixing cement. Amir approached the supervisor, a stout man with a serious face. "Do you need more hands?" Amir asked. The man looked him up and down, noticing his soldier's posture and worn uniform. "Can you carry heavy loads?" the supervisor asked. "Yes," Amir replied simply. "Then start today," the man said, pointing toward a pile of bricks. Without hesitation, Amir joined the workers. The sun grew hotter as the hours passed, but Amir pushed through the sweat and pain. Each brick he lifted, each bucket he carried, reminded him that he was working toward his mother's health and their survival. By the end of the day, his muscles ached, and his back felt stiff, but his pocket carried his first day's wages in months. When Amir returned home that evening, Miriam noticed the dust on his clothes and the tired lines on his face. "You worked hard today," she said gently. Amir smiled despite his exhaustion. "Yes, and I will keep working." We will not depend on anyone else. Raza gave us a chance, and now it is my turn to build on it. Miriam nodded proudly. She could see the fire returning to her son's spirit. Days turned into weeks, and Amir continued his work at the construction site. His hands grew rough, but his heart grew steady. Every evening he returned home with medicine and food, and every morning he left with renewed strength. Slowly, his mother's health began to improve. Her cough lessened, her steps became steadier, and her smile returned. One evening after supper, Amir opened the wooden box and showed the metal to his mother again. It gleamed softly under the lamp, its shine reflecting on both of their faces. "Do you see this, mother?" Amir said. "This metal was once a symbol of my past. Now it is a reminder of what kindness can do. When I look at it, I no longer think only of battles. I think of Raza's respect and the chance he gave us." Miriam touched the metal gently and whispered, "It is also a reminder of who you are, Amir. You are not just a soldier of war. You are a soldier of life. You protect me, and you fight for our future." Her words brought tears to Amir's eyes, but this time they were not tears of despair. They were tears of strength. He realized that life had not ended when he left the army. A new kind of service had begun, one that required patience, love, and courage in different ways. That night, Amir sat by the window after his mother fell asleep. He looked up at the stars, the metal resting in his hand. He thought of Raza again and wondered how he could ever repay such kindness. Perhaps one day he would find a way. For now, the best repayment was to live with honor and to protect what mattered most. Amir closed the box carefully and placed it back on the shelf. He whispered to himself a promise. He would never again allow despair to steal his strength. Tomorrow he would rise again, work again, and continue walking the path that kindness had opened for him. The weeks slowly turned into months, and Amir's life began to settle into a new rhythm. Each morning he rose before the sun, offered a short prayer, and then prepared for another long day at the construction site. His body was getting stronger, and his movements more steady, but his heart carried a quiet peace that he had not felt in a long time. His mother noticed the change in him. Miriam often sat near the window, waiting for him to return every evening. When she saw his shadow approaching from the street, she would smile to herself. Amir's steps were still tired, but they were no longer heavy with despair. He walked with purpose now, like a man who had found a reason to keep moving forward. One evening, when Amir came home with his day's wages, Miriam said, "My son, you have worked so hard. You are carrying all the burden alone. Do you not feel tired in your heart?" Amir placed the money carefully on the wooden table and smiled. "Yes, mother, my body feels tired, but my heart is lighter than before. Every brick I lift, every coin I bring home, reminds me that I am fighting for your health and for our future." Miriam reached out and held his hand. "Then I am proud of you, Amir. A soldier does not need a battlefield to show his strength. Life itself is the greatest battle." Her words stayed with Amir as he lay awake that night. He knew she was right. His fight now was not with enemies, but with poverty, hardship, and hopelessness. Yet deep inside, he also felt another duty growing stronger. He wanted to give back the kindness he had received from Raza. That single act of respect had lifted him from despair, and Amir wished he could do the same for someone else. The next day at the construction site, Amir noticed a young boy sitting near the pile of stones. The boy was thin, his clothes were torn, and his eyes looked both hungry and afraid. Amir walked over and asked, "Why are you sitting here, son?" The boy looked up and replied softly, "My father used to work here, but he got sick. I came to see if I could get some work." Amir's heart ached at the boy's words. He saw in him a reflection of his own struggle not long ago. Without thinking twice, Amir took the boy to the supervisor and said, "He is small, but he can help carry light tools or fetch water. Give him a chance." The supervisor hesitated at first, but then agreed. From that day on, Amir quietly guided the boy, teaching him how to carry small loads and how to keep safe at the site. In the evenings, Amir sometimes shared his bread with him. Slowly, the boy began to smile again. One day he said, "Thank you, uncle. You remind me of my father." Amir felt something stir deep inside him. It was the same warmth he had felt when Raza had honored his medal. He realized that kindness flowed like a circle. When one person offered it, it could spread and change another life. At home, Amir shared this with his mother. Miriam listened with shining eyes. "This is how blessings grow, my son," she said. You are giving hope the same way you were given hope. The seasons changed and Amir continued his steady work. The young boy also grew stronger, and his father slowly began to recover thanks to the money the boy earned. Seeing this filled Amir with quiet pride. One evening, while Amir was resting at home, there was a knock on the door. He opened it and found Raza standing there once again. His presence brought back memories of the day when everything had changed for Amir. "Peace be upon you, Amir," Raza greeted warmly. "I came to see how you and your mother are doing." Amir welcomed him inside. Mariam was overjoyed to see the man who had shown her son such respect. She offered him tea and they all sat together. Raza looked at Amir with a smile. "I can see strength in your eyes again. Tell me, how is life now?" Amir replied honestly. "Life is still hard, but it is no longer empty. I work each day and my mother's health is better. Your kindness gave me a new beginning and I will never forget that." Raza nodded with satisfaction. That is what matters. A man's true strength is not only in war, but in how he rises after he falls. Amir felt a deep gratitude in his heart. He silently promised himself that he would keep moving forward, not only for his mother but also for the honor that Raza had restored in him. That night, after Raza left, Amir sat with the medal in his hand again. Its shine seemed brighter than before. It was no longer just a memory of the past. It had become a guide for the future, reminding him that respect and kindness could rebuild even a broken soul.